Hey guys, so as you can see from the title of the video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the underpainting process, specifically my own, but also throwing in some different types of underpainting and how that affects the painting that you're trying to make, whether that's a portrait or a landscape. I wanted to make this video to kind of talk about my own process, but also because I know how difficult it is as a self-taught artist to sometimes have access to art and like the different types of methods you can use. Specifically for me, like growing up, I never really had access to art classes in school, and the times that I did, they were very limited and like entry level. So I never really learned about underpainting or how to prepare a canvas for acrylic painting or how to prepare it for oil painting. So I just wanted to share a little bit of the information that I do have with y'all to make art just a little bit more accessible. So without further ado, let's get started.
So, what is an underpainting? Well, it's basically what it sounds like. It's a painting underneath the actual painting. It's the first initial layer or layers of paint. For some, it's just adding a wash of color onto the canvas, blocking out some general shapes, or creating a detailed monotone painting. In my case, I like using acrylic paint, specifically in this like brown umber sort of shade, to block out some of the values and shapes of my portraits. So, why is something like an underpainting helpful? For some, a blank white canvas can be scary to start with, and having some color eases the pressure. But an underpainting can also do a lot more. It can help you establish the composition or the values, which, like I said, is what I like to do, as composition is something I usually set on during the sketch process. In my case, I really like having a nice contrast between values, but sometimes it's difficult for me to really see that difference in value with color. For example, a vivid color like red might seem brighter or lighter in value than it actually is. So having the values painted beforehand helps color reflect the values painted beneath it, which is basically leading into color theory and how the underpainting will affect the colors and values of the finished painting. I know that there's a common feeling that color theory doesn't make sense or is kind of confusing. And I guess the easiest way I can explain it is through a hair dye. When someone wanted to dye their hair red, their original hair color will affect how bright that red shows up. So if they have blonde hair, the red will be much more vibrant. But if that same red is used on top of brown hair, it will appear darker and subtler. So that sort of process is reflected in the underpainting. The color of the underpainting changes with each artist's preference. There are, of course, the typical colors that they might use, like grayscale, brown, which provide a more neutral foundation, but some might also choose a more vibrant color, like hot pink or orange, so that the end result is just as vibrant. Others, for example, if they might choose to paint a night scene, will choose blues or purples. Essentially, you want to choose a color that will most benefit you and the painting you want to make. In my case, I like using that brown umber or just a regular brown color. I feel like I really enjoy the neutral base it gives me for my portraits, especially because in my own color mixing stage, I tend to make the colors a bit more saturated. So if I had a vibrant color, I'm a little worried that my colors that are already saturated might be a little bit too saturated in the final piece, if that makes sense. In my own process, I like using acrylics and watering them down. That way I can slowly build up the values as you would with a watercolor painting. This is my own personal preference as someone who learned how to paint with watercolors first rather than acrylics. So it's just something I've become accustomed to. Um, Additionally, I also like using a smaller paintbrush, partially because that's already what I have on hand, but also because it gives me a bit more control on where I'm putting paint, especially as somebody with a naturally shaky hand. So after all these sort of explanations and examples, the most important thing is to decide what works best for you. Now, this may be not using an underpainting at all, or maybe just adding a quick wash of color, or going a bit more detailed and creating a monotone painting. And if you're having trouble deciding what you want to do, maybe look towards what result you would like. If you want your painting to feel very vibrant, or you want it to feel very cool or muted, look at artists that you like and what their process is. And you can learn a lot just by watching other artists' work. While my explanations in this video might not have been the most technical, I still do hope that I've helped you in some way or another, even if that's just opening the door to you to some more techniques in regards to painting. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching.